The mess hall buzzed with the usual evening chatter as cadets finished their dinner. Tables filled with young faces, all wearing the crisp blue uniforms of the Stellar Defense Academy. But if someone looked closely, they would notice one table. In the far corner where a single girl sat alone, Lihanna picked at her food slowly. Her uniform looked exactly like everyone else's, except for one glaring difference. While her classmates wore shiny medals and colorful ribbons across their chests, Hana's uniform was completely bare. Not a single badge decorated her jacket. At the table nearest to her, 3 cadets whispered among themselves while stealing glances in her direction. "Look at Zero again," said Cadet Park Jiho, using the cruel nickname that had stuck to Hana for the past 3 years. "Still nothing on her chest." "I heard she failed the marksmanship test again last week," added Cadet Lee Sumi, her voice carrying. Just loud enough for Hana to hear. "How does someone mess up shooting that badly?" The 3rd cadet, Nam Hyok, shook his head. "My cousin graduated 2 years ago. He said they never had anyone make it this far without earning at least 1 medal. It's embarrassing for the whole academy." Hana continued eating as if she heard nothing. She had learned long ago that reacting only made things worse. The whispers and stares had become part of her daily routine, like morning exercises or evening study time. The mess hall doors opened with a sharp hiss, and the room fell silent. Commander Park Jinwoo strode in, his tall frame commanding immediate attention. His uniform bore so many medals and ribbons that they covered most of his chest. Behind him walked 2 other officers, their faces serious. "Attention!" Commander Park called out. Every cadet stood up instantly, their chairs scraping against the floor. "Tomorrow begins your final evaluation period before graduation," the commander announced. "In 2 weeks you will receive your first real assignments. The war against the Valeth Empire continues, and the fleet needs every capable officer." He paused, his eyes scanning the room. "Your performance over the next 14 days will determine where you serve. The best of you will join elite squadrons. Others will find positions on capital ships or defensive installations." Cadet Jiho straightened his shoulders, clearly confident about his prospects. His chest displayed a bronze star for marksmanship, a silver wing for flight excellence, and 3 service ribbons. Most of the other top students looked equally pleased. Commander Park continued. "Remember, the Valeth are not like the training simulations. They are ruthless, intelligent, and they have been fighting this war longer than most of you have been. Alive, only the truly prepared will survive their first engagement." The commander's gaze briefly stopped on Hana. For just a moment, something flickered in his eyes. Not disappointment like the other instructors showed, but something else. Something that looked almost like recognition. "That is all. Return to your quarters and prepare for tomorrow's exercises." As the cadets began filing out, Hana remained seated for a few extra seconds. She watched Commander Park speaking quietly with the other officers. One of them glanced her way, then quickly looked back to the commander. "Hana," she turned to find Kim Minho approaching her table. Unlike the others, Minho had never used her cruel nickname. They had grown up in the same district on Earth, though they rarely spoke about their past. "You okay?" he asked, sitting down across from her. Hana nodded. "Just thinking about the assignments." Minho looked uncomfortable. His uniform showed 2 medals and several ribbons, marking him as a solid middle-ranked cadet. Maybe you'll get something good. The instructors see things we don't always notice." "Maybe," Hana replied quietly, but she knew better. 3 years of deliberately poor test scores had built a reputation she could not escape. Every failed simulation, every missed target, every tactical exercise where she held back her real abilities. It all served a purpose that Minho could never understand. The mess hall had mostly emptied now. Hana stood and gathered her tray. "Hana," Minho called after her. "Whatever happens with the assignments, you're tougher than people think." She paused. At the door, "Thanks, Minho." Walking through the academy corridors, Hana passed trophy cases filled with awards from previous graduating classes. Photos showed proud cadets in their new uniforms, ready to defend humanity among the stars. She wondered if any of them had been like her, hiding their true nature until the right moment came. Her dormitory room was small but functional. A single bed, a desk, and a wall locker for her few possessions. Hannah sat on her bed and opened her personal datapad. The screen showed her official academy record, test scores in the bottom 10% of her class, physical fitness ratings marked as barely acceptable, leadership evaluations that described her as quiet and unremarkable. It was a perfect lie, hidden behind layers of encrypted code that only she could access. Her real records told a different story. Reaction times that no normal human could achieve. Pattern recognition abilities that exceeded computer analysis. Combat simulations where she defeated entire enemy squadrons, while making it look like luck. A soft chime indicated an incoming message. The sender showed only as Command Authorization 77 Alpha. Phase 3 protocol confirmed. Maintain current performance levels until deployment. Your patience serves humanity. Hannah deleted the message immediately. No trace could remain. She lay back on her bed and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow would bring more tests she would need to fail convincingly. More disappointed looks from instructors. More whispers from classmates who thought they knew her story, but soon, very soon, the pretending would end. Somewhere out in the vast darkness between stars, the Valeth Empire was planning their next move. And when that moment came, when humanity needed someone who could do the impossible, Lihanna would finally show them who she really was. For now, though, she remained Zero, the girl with no medals. The failure who somehow kept passing just enough to stay in the academy, the girl who would one day make the galaxy remember why humans were the most dangerous species in the known universe. Outside her window, the stars waited. The transport ship rumbled as it dropped out of hyperspace. Through the small porthole, Hannah could see Station Kepler 7 hanging in the void like a metal cross against the dying red star behind it. The station looked old and worn, nothing like the gleaming facilities shown in Academy recruitment videos. Final stop, announced the pilot over the intercom. Station Kepler 7, population 12. Good luck out there. Hannah gathered her single duffel bag and made her way to the airlock. The assignment ceremony 2 weeks ago had gone exactly as expected. The top cadets chose positions on battleships and elite fighter squadrons. When her turn came last, only one posting remained on the list. Monitoring Station Kepler 7, Commander Park had announced. Border surveillance duty. The other cadets had tried to hide their smirks. Everyone knew border stations were where the Academy sent its failures. A place to spend 4 years watching empty space until transfer opportunities opened up. The docking tube connected with a soft thud. Hannah stepped through the airlock into Station Kepler 7 and immediately felt the difference. The air recyclers hummed louder than they should. The lights flickered occasionally. Everything smelled like old metal and recycled air. You must be our new monitoring officer. Hannah turned to see a man in his 50s approaching. His uniform showed the rank of captain, but it looked as tired as the station itself. His name tag read, Cho Sung-hoon. Cadet Lihanna reporting for duty, sir. Captain Cho looked her up and down, taking in her medal-less uniform. His expression showed no surprise. Another academy washout, I see. Well, at least you made it this far. Follow me. They walked through narrow corridors that curved with the station's rotation. Captain Cho pointed out important areas as they went. Command center is up ahead. That's where you'll spend most of your time. We monitor long-range sensors for Valeth activity. Usually pretty quiet out here, which is why they send people like you. The command center was smaller than Hannah expected. 5 workstations surrounded a central display showing local space. 2 people looked up as they entered. This is Engineer Yoon Sora, Captain Cho said, gesturing to a woman about 30 years old with grease stains on her hands. She keeps this old bucket running. Sora nodded politely but without much interest. Welcome to the edge of nowhere. And that's Communications Officer Nam Taeyang, the captain continued, indicating a young man hunched over a console. He handles all our exciting conversations with supply ships and patrol craft. Taeng raised his hand in greeting without looking away from his screens. Hope you like being bored. We haven't seen action in 8 months. Where's the rest of the crew? Hannah asked. You're looking at most of it, Captain Cho replied. We also have Dr. Kong Minji in medical, a few maintenance techs, and some support staff. 12 people total, keeping humanity's early warning system running. He led her to a workstation in the corner. This is yours. You'll monitor sectors 7 through 12 for any unusual activity. File reports every 6 hours. Try not to fall asleep. The next few days passed slowly. Hannah sat at her station, watching sensor displays that showed mostly empty space. Occasionally a supply ship would pass through or a patrol craft would check in. The other crew members went about their routines with quiet efficiency, but Hannah was not really bored. Her enhanced senses picked up details others missed. The way certain data streams carried subtle patterns, how background radiation fluctuated in ways that seemed random but actually followed complex rhythms. On her 4th day, she noticed something strange in Sector 9. The long-range sensors showed normal readings, but something felt wrong. The quantum signatures were too clean, too perfect. Captain, she called out during the night shift. I'm seeing some unusual patterns in Sector 9. Captain Cho walked over and glanced at her screen. Looks normal to me. What kind of patterns? The quantum background noise. It's too regular. Like something is filtering it. Filtering what? Captain Cho looked more closely at the display. I don't see anything out of the ordinary. The fluctuations should be random, but they're showing a rhythm. Every 47 minutes, there's a small dip in the gamma radiation levels. Captain Cho stared at the screen for a long moment. Cadet, I've been reading these sensors for 15 years. That's just normal background variation. But sir, if you compare it to the baseline readings from last month, that's enough, Captain Cho interrupted. File your standard report and move on to the next sector. Hannah sat back in her chair. She could push harder, but that would draw attention she did not want. Not yet. Over the following week, she continued watching the patterns. They were getting stronger, more frequent. Whatever was out there was getting closer. During her off-duty hours, Hannah explored the station. She memorized every corridor, every maintenance shaft, every emergency system. The other crew members thought she was just curious about her new home. They had no idea she was preparing. Dr. Kong Minji was friendly enough when Hannah visited the medical bay for her routine checkup. How are you settling in? Fine, thank you. The station is interesting. That's one word for it, Dr. Kong laughed. Most people find it boring after a while. But maybe that's better than excitement out here. Engineer Sora was less talkative but answered Hannah's questions about station systems. The main reactor is getting old, but it's reliable. The defensive systems are mostly automated, not that we need them. What kind of defensive systems? Basic stuff. Energy shields, a few particle cannons. Nothing fancy. This station was built for monitoring, not fighting. Communications Officer Taeyang spent most of his time listening to routine traffic. Patrol ships check in twice a week. Supply runs every month. Otherwise, it's just automated beacons and navigation updates. Do you ever pick up Valith transmissions? Sometimes. But they're always encoded. Command has people who decode that stuff. We just record it and forward it along. By her 2nd week on station, Hannah had confirmed her suspicions. The patterns in Sector 9 were not random. Something was out there, watching and waiting. Something that was very good at hiding. She began preparing in small ways. Extra rations stored in various locations. Maintenance tools moved to strategic positions. Emergency protocols memorized and improved upon. The other crew members noticed nothing unusual. To them, she was just another failed cadet learning to cope with boring duty on a forgotten station. They had no idea that their quiet new monitoring officer was humanity's most carefully hidden weapon, and that very soon they would all discover what she was really capable of. The patterns in Sector 9 continued to grow stronger each day. The alarm screamed through Station Kepler 7 at 0347 hours. Hannah jerked awake in her small quarters, instantly alert. This was not a drill. The emergency lighting cast everything in red shadows as she pulled on her uniform and ran toward the command center. Captain Cho was already there, staring at the main display with wide eyes. Communications Officer Nam Taeyang worked frantically at his console while Engineer Yoon Sora checked system readings. "Report," Hannah called out as she reached her station. 12 contacts dropping out of hyperspace, Captain Cho said, his voice tight with fear. Large ships, very large. The display showed the incoming vessels arranged in a perfect attack formation. Each ship was 3 times the size of any human battleship. Their sleek, organic curves marked them clearly as Valith warships. How did they get so close without us detecting them? Dr. Kang Minji asked as she hurried into the command center. Hannah knew the answer, but could not say it. The patterns she had been tracking for weeks had been advanced scouts. Cloaked ships mapping their defenses and learning their routines. The Valith had been watching them for a long time. "Emergency transmission to Fleet Command," Captain Cho ordered. "Priority Alpha, request immediate assistance." Nam Taeyang shook his head grimly. "Sir, they're jamming all frequencies. I can't get anything through. Keep trying." "Send everything you have." On the main screen, the Valith ships moved closer. Their formation was perfect, practiced. This was not a random attack. They had planned this assault carefully. "Sir," Engineer Sora called out, "they're powering weapons. Energy readings are off the charts. Raise shields. Charge defensive systems, shields at maximum, particle cannons online." "But sir, against 12 battleships, I know our odds, Engineer." "Do your job." The first Valith energy beams struck. The station's shields like hammers of pure light. The whole structure shook violently. Warning lights flashed as power levels dropped across all systems. "Shields down to 60%, Sora reported. Return fire. All weapons." The station's particle cannons fired their first shots. 2 beams struck the nearest Valith ship, barely scratching its armor. The alien vessel did not even slow down. More energy beams hit the station. The lights flickered and went out for several seconds before emergency power kicked in. Shields at 30%. Hull breaches on levels 4 and 7. Captain Cho grabbed the station intercom. "All crew to emergency stations. Prepare for boarding." Hannah felt something change inside her mind. Deep protocols activated. Systems that had been sleeping for years suddenly came online. Her vision sharpened. Her hearing became more sensitive. Every muscle in her body felt charged with energy. "They're launching something," Nam Taeyang called out. "Small craft." Dozens of them. The display showed swarms of boarding pods shooting toward the station like bullets. Each pod carried a squad of Valith shock troops. "How long until the first pods reach us?" Captain Cho asked. 2 minutes, sir. All crew, arm yourselves." This is not a drill. The crew members grabbed emergency weapons from lockers around the command center. Basic pulse rifles and sidearms. Nothing that could stop professional soldiers. Hannah moved to her station and activated a hidden panel. Inside was a small device. That looked like a medical injector. She pressed it against her neck and felt the chemicals enter her bloodstream. Her enhanced reflexes fully activated now. The first boarding pod struck the outer hull with a thunderous crash. Then another, and another. "They're cutting through the airlocks," Engineer Sora reported. "Emergency bulkheads are sealing automatically. How many pods made contact?" "At least 20. Maybe more." Captain Cho looked around at his small crew. 12 people with basic training against professional alien warriors. We hold the command center as long as possible. If they take this room, they control the whole station. The sound of cutting tools echoed through the corridors. Then silence. Heavy footsteps approached from multiple directions. The Valith moved with perfect coordination. Like they had practiced this assault many times before, the first enemy soldiers appeared at the main entrance. They stood 7 feet tall, covered in black combat armor that seemed to absorb light. Their faces were hidden behind helmets, but red sensor lights glowed where their eyes should be. "Contact!" Captain Cho shouted, raising his rifle. The battle began instantly. Pulse rifle fire filled the command center with bright flashes. The Valeth soldiers moved like liquid death, dodging between cover while returning accurate fire. Communications Officer Nam fell first, hit by 3 energy bolts to the chest. He died trying to send one last distress signal. Dr. Kong tried to help him but took a shot to the shoulder. She crawled behind a console, bleeding heavily. More Valeth poured through secondary entrances. The small human crew was quickly surrounded. That was when Hana moved. She rolled behind the nearest alien soldier faster than any normal human could move. Her hand found a weak point in his armor and struck with inhuman force. The Valeth warrior collapsed instantly. Before the others could react, Hana had already grabbed his weapon and fired 3 perfect shots. 3 more enemies dropped. What the hell? Captain Cho started to say, but Hana was no longer listening to him. Every enhanced instinct focused on the battle. She moved through the command center like a force of nature, anticipating enemy movements and striking with deadly precision. A Valeth soldier tried to flank her position. Hana threw a piece of broken equipment with such accuracy that it knocked him unconscious before he could fire. Another warrior aimed at Dr. Kang. Hana appeared behind him like a ghost and disabled him with a single blow to the neck. The remaining Valeth in the command center began to retreat. They had expected easy prey but found something impossible instead. Regroup in Corridor 7, one of them spoke in their harsh language. Call for reinforcements. As they fell back, Hana helped Dr. Kang to her feet. Are you hurt badly? I'll live. But Hana, how did you? Later, we need to move. Captain Cho and Engineer Sora stared at her with shock and confusion. The quiet cadet they had dismissed as a failure had just saved their lives with abilities no normal human possessed. Who are you really? Captain Cho asked Dot before Hana could answer. The lights went out completely. Emergency power had failed. In the darkness, more Valeth boarding pods struck the station. This is just the beginning, Hana said quietly. They brought 12 ships for a reason. They're not here to capture the station. Then what do they want? To test something. To see what happens when they corner a human with nothing left to lose. In the darkness outside, hundreds more Valeth soldiers prepared for the next assault. They had no idea that their simple raid had just awakened humanity's most carefully hidden predator. The station shook again as more Valeth boarding pods slammed into the hull. In the darkness of the command center, Hana could hear the enemy soldiers moving through distant corridors. Their heavy boots echoed like drums of war. Emergency power is completely down, Engineer Sora whispered from behind an overturned console. They hit the main reactor control lines. Captain Cho crawled over to where Dr. Kong was treating her wounded shoulder. How many crew members are still alive? Unknown, sir. Communications are dead. We have no contact with other sections. Hana moved silently to a wall panel and pressed her palm against it. Hidden sensors read her biometrics and activated systems that officially did not exist. A soft blue glow appeared around her hand. What are you doing? Captain Cho asked. Something I should have done weeks ago, Hana replied. She closed her eyes and felt her enhanced neural implants connect with the station's computer network. Data flowed through her mind like water. She could see every system, every sensor, every piece of equipment on the entire station. The Valeth had taken Deck 5 completely. They controlled both docking bays and the main armory. 43 enemy soldiers moved through the corridors in perfect formation. 3 more boarding pods were approaching, but they had made one mistake. They thought they were fighting a normal human outpost with standard defenses. They had no idea that Station Kepler 7 had been chosen for her assignment for very specific reasons. I need you all to stay here and stay quiet, Hana said without opening her eyes. Do not leave this room. No matter what you hear, Hana, what's happening to you? Dr. Kong asked. Your vital signs are impossible. Heart rate, brain activity, everything is off the charts. I am exactly what humanity created me to be. Through the station's network, Hana began to work. She started with simple things. The lights in Corridor 6 flickered on and off in a pattern that confused the Valeth squad moving through it. They slowed down, checking for traps. Then she activated maintenance drones in Section 3. The small repair robots were not designed for combat, but they carried cutting tools and welding equipment. Under Hana's control, they became something else entirely. The first Valith soldier to encounter a modified drone died when it sprayed superheated plasma across his faceplate. The second warrior tried to shoot the small machine, but it moved with inhuman speed and precision. Squad 7 reporting unusual activity, came a voice over the enemy communication system that Hana now monitored. Automated systems are acting strangely. Define strangely, replied the Valith commander. The maintenance units appear to be hostile. We have lost 2 soldiers. In the command center, Captain Cho watched Hana with growing amazement and fear. She stood perfectly still, her hand glowing blue against the wall panel. But somehow she was fighting a battle across the entire station. The life support systems became Hana's next weapon. She rerouted atmospheric controls to create pockets of zero oxygen in rooms where Valith soldiers were resting. When they put on emergency breathing gear, she flooded those same areas with pure oxygen and sparked electrical fires. Blast doors that normally opened and closed slowly began slamming shut with crushing force. 3 enemy warriors were caught in doorways and eliminated instantly. Commander, another Valith voice reported over their communications. We are taking heavy casualties from unknown sources. The humans appear to have defensive systems we did not detect. Impossible. Our intelligence report showed standard monitoring equipment only. Sir, I am watching security cameras shut down and restart at will. The environmental controls are being used as weapons. Someone is controlling this entire station. Through the network, Hana could see the enemy commander's location. He stood in what used to be the main armory, surrounded by 6 elite guards. She began planning his destruction. First, she activated the fire suppression system in that section. Chemical foam filled the room, making it impossible to see. Then she overloaded the power couplings in the walls. Electrical arcs danced through. The foam like deadly lightning. 2 guards fell immediately. The others tried to retreat but found the doors had locked automatically. All squads fall back to the docking bays, the commander ordered. We are aborting this mission. But Hana was not finished with them. She took control of the station's artificial gravity generators. Sections where enemy soldiers were moving suddenly experienced crushing high gravity. Other areas had no gravity at all, sending warriors floating helplessly through the air. The docking bays where the Valith tried to retreat became death traps. Hana vented atmosphere from those sections while simultaneously heating the deck plates to temperatures that melted metal. Enemy soldiers found themselves in vacuum while standing on surfaces hot enough to burn through their armor. What is she? Captain Cho whispered to Dr. Kong. I don't know. But her neural activity is unlike anything I've ever seen. It's like her brain is interfaced directly with the station's computer systems. Engineer Sora crawled closer to them. That's impossible. No human technology can do that. Then maybe she's not entirely human anymore. Dr. Kong replied quietly. Through the network, Hana felt the last Valith boarding pod approaching. This one was different, larger. It carried something important. As the pod attached to the hull, she realized what it was. A plasma bomb. Large enough to destroy the entire station and everything in it. The Valith had decided that, if they could not capture the station, they would eliminate whatever was causing their massive casualties. Hana opened her eyes for the first time in 20 minutes. They're going to destroy the station. We have maybe 5 minutes before that bomb goes off. Then we evacuate, Captain Cho said. Emergency pods, escape shuttles, anything. No, they'll just follow us and finish the job. This ends here. She turned back to the wall panel and dove deeper into the station's systems than ever before. Past the normal operational controls, past the emergency backups, into systems that were installed in secret and never supposed to be used. Station. Kepler 7 had been built as more than a monitoring post. Hidden in its structure were weapons and defenses that could turn it into a fortress. They had been waiting for someone with the right clearance codes to activate them, someone exactly like Lee Hana. The station began to change around them. Walls, slid apart to reveal hidden weapon ports. The hull reconfigured itself into an attack configuration that had never appeared in any official blueprints. Outside, the Veilous ships detected the transformation and began charging their main weapons. High Admiral Vorth Keshen stood on the bridge of the Veilous flagship, watching his tactical display with growing disbelief. 12 of his best battleships surrounded a single human monitoring station, yet somehow his forces were being destroyed piece by piece. "Report from boarding teams," his communications officer announced. "Squad leaders report impossible resistance," came the reply through heavy static. "The station itself appears to be fighting back. Automated systems are coordinating attacks. We have lost over 200 soldiers." Admiral Keshen's 4 eyes narrowed in his insectoid face. 200 soldiers, against 12 humans on a monitoring post. "Sir, the survivors report that one human female is controlling the entire station through some kind of neural interface. She appears to have superhuman abilities. Impossible. Human technology cannot create such beings." But even as he spoke, the Admiral watched another of his boarding pods explode as it tried to dock. The station's defensive systems had somehow turned simple maintenance equipment into deadly weapons. "Sir," his tactical officer interrupted, "the station is changing configuration. It's revealing weapon systems we never detected." On the main screen, Station Kepler-7 was transforming before their eyes. Hidden panels slid away to show massive particle cannons. Shield generators that should not exist powered up along the hull. The simple monitoring post was becoming a fortress. How is this possible? Our intelligence reports showed no significant weapons. "Sir, I believe we may have encountered something from human classified programs. Request permission to access the strategic database." Admiral Keshen hesitated. The strategic database contained information about every known human military asset. Accessing it required the highest security clearance and was only used in the most desperate situations. The station fired its first hidden weapon. A beam of pure energy lanced out and struck one of his cruisers. The massive warship's shields flared and failed instantly. The hull began to glow white-hot. "Access the database," the Admiral ordered. "Emergency priority. Find out what we are." Really fighting, the database connection established quickly. Admiral Keshen inputted the current battle data and biometric readings from the human female who seemed to control everything. Search parameters: human female, approximately 20 years old, superhuman reflexes, neural interface capabilities, stationed at monitoring outpost. The system processed for several seconds, then returned an error message. Subject not found in standard military records. Expand search to classified sections. Access denied. Insufficient clearance level. Admiral Keshen felt a cold sensation in his chest. In 30 years of military service, he had never encountered a clearance level higher than his own. Override emergency combat authorization. Admiral command codes Keshen 77 Alpha. The system paused longer this time. Finally, a new interface appeared. "Welcome to Strategic Database Level 7. Warning: information contained within. This section represents humanity's most classified military assets. Unauthorized disclosure carries penalty of immediate termination. Search for subject matching current biometric data." New files began appearing on his screen. Files that made his alien blood run cold. Subject identified: Lihana. Designation: Silent Guardian Protocol Unit 12. Created under Project Nightfall. Authorization level maximum. Combat rating: extreme threat. Confirmed eliminations: 847 across multiple species. 847 kills. The Admiral's tactical computer could barely process that number. His best warriors averaged perhaps 20 confirmed kills in their entire careers, he read further. The Silent Guardian Protocol had created 12 human operatives with enhanced genetics, cybernetic neural interfaces, and psychological conditioning that removed normal human limitations. Each operative was designed to function as a one-person army capable of destroying entire enemy installations. Project officially terminated after ethical review, the file continued. All operatives supposedly decommissioned. Current status unknown. But clearly, at least one operative had not been decommissioned. She had been hidden on a remote monitoring station, waiting for exactly this kind of situation. Sir, his communications officer called out urgently. We're receiving a transmission from the human station. Put it through. The main screen flickered and showed the interior of Station Kepler-7's command center. A young human female stood with her hand pressed against a wall panel that glowed with blue energy. Her eyes were completely white, as if she was no longer entirely present in her own body when she spoke. Her voice carried harmonics that no natural human throat could produce. I am Lihana, Silent Guardian Unit 12. You have made a critical error in judgment. Admiral Keshen stepped forward. Human, you are surrounded and outnumbered. Surrender now and your death will be quick. You misunderstand the situation, Hannah replied. You are not fighting a human monitoring station. You are fighting a weapon that your species helped create through years of war against mine. On his tactical display, the Admiral watched another of his ships take critical damage from the station's increasingly powerful attacks. Every battle you have fought against humanity has taught us more about your tactics, your weaknesses, your psychology. I have studied the combat records of every engagement between our species. I know how you think. I know how you fight. I know how you die. The transmission cut to external cameras showing the station's hull. As they watched, more hidden weapons emerged. These were not standard human designs. They were something else entirely. Something that seemed to adapt and evolve as the battle continued. My neural patterns have been integrated with this station's computer systems. We are no longer separate entities. Every system, every sensor, every piece of equipment responds to my will as if it were part of my own body. Admiral Keshen felt fear for the first time in decades. All ships, full attack, destroy that station immediately. The 12 Valeth battleships opened fire simultaneously. Energy beams that could vaporize mountains struck the station's shields. The shields held. Your weapons are impressive, Hannah's voice continued calmly. But I've been preparing for this moment for 3 years. Every day I watched your patrol patterns. Every night I studied your attack formations. This station has been modified specifically to counter your technology, the station fired back. Not with 1 or 2 weapons, but with dozens. Hidden systems that the Valeth had never detected unleashed destruction that should have been impossible. From such a small installation, one of the Admiral's cruisers exploded completely. Another began venting atmosphere from multiple hull breaches. How many more of you are there? Admiral Keshen demanded. That information is classified, Hannah replied. But I can tell you this. Every time you attack a human installation, there is a chance you might encounter one of us. We are your species' punishment for starting this war. The transmission ended, leaving the Admiral staring at a tactical situation that was rapidly becoming hopeless. Sir, what are your orders? Admiral. Keshen looked at the impossible human weapon that was systematically destroying his fleet. Send a message to High Command. Priority Alpha, we have encountered a new class of human weapon. Recommend immediate policy revision regarding engagement with human installations. The battle was far from over, but the Admiral already knew how it would end. They had not come to capture a monitoring station. They had stumbled into a trap designed by humanity's most dangerous predators. The battle lasted 14 hours. When it finally ended, the space around Station Kepler-7 looked like a graveyard of metal and dreams. 12 Valeth battleships floated dead in the void, their hulls cracked open like broken eggs. Some had been cut apart by precision beam weapons. Others had simply exploded when their reactors overloaded. A few showed signs of being torn apart from the inside, as if something had gotten aboard and methodically destroyed everything it found. Station Kepler-7 hung in the center of it all, battered but intact. Its hull showed scorch marks and impact. Craters, but the structure remained solid. The hidden weapons that had emerged during the battle were now retracted, making it look once again like a simple monitoring post, Fleet Admiral Song Wonho arrived with the rescue task force 3 days later. His flagship, the battlecruiser Indomitable, led a formation of 8 warships toward the silent station. Long-range sensors showed no life signs, no power readings, no indication that anyone had survived. "What do you think we'll find in there?" asked Captain Park Jasu, the Admiral's aide. "I know exactly what we'll find," Admiral Song replied quietly. "The question is whether anyone else will be alive to see it." The Admiral was one of only 5 people in the entire fleet who knew the truth about the Silent Guardian Protocol. He had helped design the program 20 years ago, back when humanity was losing the war and desperate measures seemed justified. The rescue shuttles docked with the station carefully. The boarding teams wore full combat armor and carried heavy weapons, not knowing what to expect. But when the airlocks opened, they found only silence. The station's corridors were clean. Too clean. Maintenance drones had obviously been working for days to remove all traces of battle damage. The walls showed no signs of the fierce fighting that had taken place. In the command center, they found the survivors. Captain Cho Sung-hoon sat at his station, staring at displays that showed normal operational status. Engineer Yum Sora was running diagnostic checks as if nothing unusual had happened. Dr. Kang Minji was treating minor injuries with steady hands, and in the corner, at the monitoring station where she had always belonged, Lihana sat quietly watching sensor displays. Her uniform was still perfectly clean. Her expression was calm and professional. "Captain Cho," the rescue team leader called out, "what's your status?" "All systems operational," Captain Cho replied in a voice that sounded hollow. "No casualties." Among station personnel, what happened to the Valeth force? Captain Cho looked at Hannah for a long moment before answering. They underestimated their target. Admiral Song arrived on the station 2 hours later. He walked through corridors that his security teams had already declared safe, but he knew the real danger had never been to him. He found Hannah in the observation deck, looking out at the debris field that had once been a Valeth fleet. 847, he said quietly. 860, Hannah corrected without turning around. The database was not updated with my most recent missions. The program was officially terminated. The program was never terminated, Admiral. It was just moved to a deeper level of classification. Admiral Song sat down beside her. Through the viewport, they could see recovery ships collecting the Valeth combat tags that had been arranged in perfect rows on the station's outer hull. Each tag represented a confirmed kill. "How long have you been on this station?" 3 years, 2 months, 16 days. Long enough to study every Valeth patrol pattern and tactical doctrine. Long enough to prepare this station for what I knew would eventually come. And the crew? They'll recover. Captain Cho is a good officer. He's already filing reports that credit the station's defensive systems for the victory. Engineer Sora thinks the weapons were experimental technology she never knew about. Dr. Kang believes I had some kind of stress reaction that temporarily enhanced my abilities. And what do you believe? For the first time, Hannah looked at him. Her eyes were still human, but something behind them was different, colder, more distant. I believe I am exactly what you made me to be. A weapon disguised as a person. News of the Station Kepler 7 incident spread through the fleet within days. The official reports described a heroic defense against overwhelming odds. They praised the crew's courage and the effectiveness of new defensive technologies. They made no mention of Silent Guardian operatives or impossible kill counts. Back at the Stellar Defense Academy, the story became legend. Cadets whispered about the failed student who had saved an entire sector. Instructors used the battle as an example of how preparation and determination could overcome any obstacle. Cadet Kim Min-ho read the reports with growing amazement. His childhood friend, the girl everyone had called Zero, had somehow defeated 12 enemy battleships with nothing but a monitoring station. When he tried to contact her, all messages came back marked as classified recipient. The Valeth Empire received a very different report. Admiral Keshin's surviving communications, transmitted during the battle's final moments. painted a picture of human military capabilities that terrified their high command. Emergency sessions were called. Military doctrines were rewritten. New protocols were established for engaging human installations. The most important change was simple. Avoid engagement when possible, especially with installations that seemed too quiet, too normal, too unimportant to threaten anyone. 1 week after the rescue, Admiral Song found Hannah in his office. She had requested transfer back to border duty. "There are other stations," she said simply. "Other places where someone like me might be needed." "The war is changing, Hannah. Intelligence reports suggest the Valith are reconsidering their expansion plans. What happened at Kepler 7 has made them more cautious." Good, that was the point. Admiral Song signed her transfer orders. As she turned to leave, he called out one last question. "Do you ever regret what we made you?" Hannah paused at the door. "I regret that it was necessary. But I don't regret being able to protect people who can't protect themselves." 3 days later, she boarded a transport to Station Eco 4, another remote monitoring post on the edge of human space. Her new uniform bore no medals, no ribbons, no signs of her previous service. To anyone who looked, she was just another academy graduate starting her career in a quiet assignment. But in the deepest databases of both human and alien intelligence services, her name had taken on new meaning. Lihanna, Silent Guardian Unit 12. The girl with no medals who had shown the galaxy that humanity's greatest weapons were not ships or guns, but the people willing to become something more than human to protect everything they loved. The transport departed, carrying its quiet passenger toward whatever battles waited in the darkness between stars. Behind her, Station Kepler 7 continued its peaceful mission of monitoring empty space, its deadly secrets hidden once again beneath layers of routine and boredom. The war continued. But now everyone knew that humanity had guardians watching from the shadows. Silent protectors who appeared to be failures until the moment they revealed themselves to be exactly what their enemies feared most. The universe had learned to fear the quiet ones.